Year 2025. The world is no longer the same. A brand new zombie movie has just dropped, and it's insane. These zombies don't just shuffle, they sprint like Olympic athletes. In seconds, they can chase down an airplane. And even worse, they've evolved brains. They can sense prey from far away just through touch. They use bookshelves as battering rams to break through human defenses. But enough teasing. Let's dive straight into the story. It all begins with a little boy watching cartoons at home. Suddenly, the TV cuts out. A loud emergency alert hijacks the screen. A mysterious outbreak is spreading rapidly across the globe. Anyone infected turns rabid in minutes or after a short incubation. They become savage, bloodthirsty monsters. And the infection rate, off the charts. City after city falls to the outbreak. As the boy watches, strange noises echo from downstairs. He musters his courage and heads toward the staircase. Turns out it's just his sister playing a prank. Right then, their dad calls home. He's on duty outside. He tells his wife to take the kids and flee to a relative's place outside the city, because their city is now facing a full-on zombie outbreak. Little Abigail beams when she sees her dad still wearing the Lucky Charms she made for him. Their mom rushes to finish packing. Outside, the sound of screams grows louder. She knows there's no time to waste. She grabs her children and bolts. But just as they're about to get in the car, an infected lunges at her. Quick thinking, Abigail dives under the car. From there, she watches in horror. Her little brother is attacked helpless. She trembles uncontrollably, frozen in shock. Eventually, she crawls out, but it's too late. Her mother is now a zombie and charges at her. Right then, a gunshot rings out. A stranger appears and saves Abigail at the last second. Before doing anything else, he gently tells her to cover her ears. Then he puts down her brother who was about to turn. The scene cuts to the present. 15 years later, humanity has collapsed under the weight of the undead. What used to be a bustling city is now ruins. Abigail is now a grown woman. Raised by Cassius, the man who saved her, she's become a skilled survivor of the wild. But after so many years alone in the forest, she yearns to be around other people again. Her biggest dream, finding a base where survivors live together. But Cassius believes safety lies on a remote island, far from any humans. One night, he's jolted awake by the sound of a warning bell outside. A zombie charges out of the shadows. Cassius fires a series of precise shots and drops it. He and Abigail exchange worried glances. Where there's one, more will follow. Zombies never travel alone. Before sunrise, they pack up and leave the area. Suddenly, their horses grow restless. Cassius senses danger is near. They scan their surroundings. Up ahead, a jeep is surrounded by a swarm of zombies. Cassius would rather stay out of it, but Abigail doesn't hesitate. She opens fire. Cassius has no choice but to jump in and finish the job. They ride toward the jeep on horseback. It's the perfect chance to scavenge supplies. Cassius notices the dead man's shoes. He immediately swaps them for his own. Just then, a radio inside the jeep starts crackling. The man they just saw, he had teammates nearby. Cassius decides it's time to go. But before they can leave, a group of off-road vehicles arrive. Dozens of armed survivors surround them. One of them sees the shoes Cassius just took. Immediately, they assume the two are ruthless looters. Tensions rise until a pregnant woman steps out of the jeep. She begs her team to let Abigail and Cassius go. Just then, the horses cry out again. Growls echo from the surrounding woods. A tidal wave of zombies rushes in from every direction. It's too late to run. They have no choice but to fight back right there. Among the horde, a female zombie watches calmly. She seems intelligent, like she's observing a battle strategy. The survivors have no shields or cover. Within moments, their numbers drop. Abigail helps the pregnant woman into the jeep. Cassius fights his way back while shooting and takes down the intelligent female zombie. Then he slams the gas pedal and drives them out. A black-faced zombie watches her fall. He wails in grief like losing someone he loved. His rage is terrifying. Cassius drives the couple away from the zombie swarm. They reveal their destination, a survivor base known as Boat Town. Abigail is thrilled at the name. This is the place she's been searching for. Once they get their bearings, Cassius prepares to drive them there. But halfway through, the vehicle breaks down. David, Megan's husband, says he's a mechanic and checks under the hood. Unfortunately, they're missing parts. The car is dead. With no choice, the group sets out on foot. They walk along the empty road. Soon, they reach Abigail's old hometown. The tall buildings still stand, but the city's soul is long gone. Cassius finds a large building where they can rest for the night. After confirming the building is safe, they start a fire and sit down to rest. Abigail can't hide her curiosity about Boat Town. Earlier, Megan had contacted the place using a radio transmitter. The name Boat Town fits, it's literally built from massive boats tied together. It doesn't touch land, which makes it incredibly safe. Even food and water supplies there are abundant. To many survivors, it's practically a promised land. Hearing this, Abigail's eyes sparkle with hope. But Cassius isn't impressed in the slightest. He believes it's better to fortify their defenses than to daydream about utopias. After setting up traps and alarms, he returns to announce his plan. He'll escort Megan and David a bit further. But after that, they go separate ways since they have different goals. Abigail looks disheartened. She rushes outside to talk to Cassius. Why doesn't he want to go to Boat Town with them? Cassius is a realist, calm and calculating. To him, the more people, the more risk. But Abigail still doesn't grasp how dangerous people can be. They get into a heated argument. Frustrated, Abigail heads upstairs to take night watch alone. What they don't know is that the black-faced zombie has been tracking them the entire time. He's found their abandoned vehicle and he's ready to strike. The next morning, Abigail is flipping through her childhood photos when she hears a noise downstairs. Zombies have broken into the building. She rushes to alert the others, but a zombie suddenly blocks her path. Thankfully, Abigail reacts quickly. She escapes its grasp just in time, but loses her footing and nearly falls. Cassius shows up in the nick of time to pull her to safety. Moments later, the zombie horde led by the black-faced one descends on the area. But luckily, they trigger the booby traps Cassius set earlier. Hearing the explosion, Cassius realizes they're the main target now. Suddenly, Abigail remembers a small civilian airport nearby. Her father used to take her there as a child. Maybe, just maybe, there's still a working plane. It could save them days of walking. Cassius doubts anything will be there, but he gives in to Abigail's determination and agrees to check it out. Soon enough, the airport comes into view, but it's completely abandoned, not a plane in sight. Still, Abigail refuses to give up. She recalls her dad once had a private hangar nearby. Now, it's just a weedy, mysterious lot. She uses the old trick to open it, and sure enough, her father's small plane is still inside. Abigail is thrilled. Finally, she has something to prove to Cassius. But the plane hasn't flown in years. David steps in and says it needs a full checkup. Abigail and Cassius take lookout positions on higher ground. But before they settle in, they spot a massive zombie horde charging in. Cassius runs back and shouts they have just 3 minutes to get the plane airborne. There's no time to finish a proper inspection. As the dad draw closer, Abigail keeps her cool. Relying on her childhood memories, she starts the engine. To everyone's shock, it works. But the zombies are nearly on top of them. They rush the plane, trying to block its path. Cassius shoots the ones crawling onto the wings. Abigail now fully understands how to operate it. She gently lifts the plane into the air. The black-faced zombie watches from below. His eyes are filled with sadness and confusion. Meanwhile, the group celebrates on board. They believe they're finally headed for Boat Town. But suddenly smoke bursts from the tail of the plane. It plummets toward the ground. Fortunately, the crash wasn't from high altitude, and the trees helped soften the impact. Everyone escaped with only minor injuries. However, the plane was completely wrecked and couldn't be used anymore. So they had no choice but to continue on foot. After making sure the area was clear of zombies, Cassius decided they would camp there for the night. Since the harbor and Boat Town were on opposite ends of the same route, the group could still travel together a bit longer. Later that night, once his wife was asleep, David quietly stepped out to the boat deck. He rolled up his pants, revealing a terrible wound. He had been bitten by a zombie not long ago. David knew it was only a matter of time before he turned. He considered ending it all with his gun, but thoughts of his pregnant wife made him hesitate. The next morning, Cassius sensed something was off about David. When no one was looking, he pulled up David's pant leg. There it was, the zombie bite. But since Megan was urging them to keep moving, Cassius chose to hold off for now. He couldn't bring himself to kill David just yet. That night, the group stumbled across a farmer's house up ahead. Cassius approached cautiously, weapon at the ready. Suddenly, an alarm near the front door went off. After confirming someone was inside, Abigail stepped forward and assured them they meant no harm. When the homeowner learned there was a pregnant woman with them, he lowered his guard. After collecting all their weapons, the old man invited them inside to rest. Surprisingly, the man had installed solar panels and a rainwater filtration system. For the first time in ages, Abigail got to enjoy a hot shower and a hearty meal. Cassius took the chance to recharge his personal laptop. Inside were dozens of photos of him and his wife, taken when she was still alive. There was even one of her while she was pregnant. After looking through the images, Cassius quietly went to find Megan. He told her he had changed his mind. He'd escort her and David to Boat Town first. After that, he and Abigail would go find the harbor as originally planned. Just then, the host brought out some wine and water to welcome them. It had been a long time since they last enjoyed such a calm, relaxing moment. But the more they talked, the more uneasy they began to feel. To their shock, the old man believed that zombies were humanity's next evolution. According to him, zombies were superior predators destined to dominate. Just like humans once hunted animals to survive. Everyone was left speechless by his twisted logic. Meanwhile, David's condition was rapidly worsening. He rushed to the bathroom and found the infection had spread. When he returned to the living room, he was horrified. Cassius, Megan, and Abigail had all passed out. The old man pressed a button on a hidden device. Instantly, David's body went limp. He couldn't move. When he regained consciousness, he found everyone hanging from the ceiling. The old man had drugged their food and drinks. Turns out, he was actually a biologist. After years of research, he had created a special device. It could control zombie behavior using low-frequency sound waves. Cassius's group had unknowingly become rare test subjects for his twisted experiments. After rambling on, he opened a cage at the back of the room. Inside was his zombified wife. He activated the device, and the zombie instantly rushed toward Cassius like a loyal dog. But David, using a surge of strength from the infection, broke free from his restraints. Somehow, he was immune to the mind control device and dashed in to save the others. Seeing things turning against him, the old man fled and vanished into the darkness. Cassius had no intention of staying there a second longer. They found a nearby vehicle and drove deep into the forest. But the old man wasn't finished yet. He remotely commanded zombies to chase after their car. On the road, a fallen tree blocked the path, forcing them to abandon the vehicle. David knew his time was running out. He made the decision to stay behind and hold off the zombies. After a tearful goodbye to his wife, David charged into the zombie horde with fierce determination. But he could only hold them off for a short while. Cassius and Megan fought and fled, struggling to survive. Just when all hope seemed lost, they spotted a guard tower ahead. Abigail shouted it was Boat Town, the place they had searched for so long. Hearing the noise, the guards opened fire, mowing down the incoming zombies. The black-faced zombie, leader of the pack, raised his hand to halt them. He and his horde could only stand still, staring at the water ahead. They couldn't cross the natural barrier. Meanwhile, Cassius's group was ferried into the heart of Boat Town by a small boat. Megan's water had broken. She needed urgent care. Thankfully, the town had doctors and a medical facility. The next morning, Abigail and Cassius finally got to see the entire base. Large boats were linked together to form a secure outpost, isolated from the mainland. Cassius met the leader of the settlement. The leader warmly invited them to stay, but strict rules had to be followed. Cassius immediately turned him down. He preferred freedom over restrictions. Abigail, on the other hand, wanted to stay. She longed to live among people her own age. The two of them ended up in another heated argument. At that moment, a doctor rushed and Megan had just given birth to a baby girl. But due to severe blood loss, Megan didn't have much time left. Cassius hurried to the medical room, heartbroken. In her final moments, Megan entrusted her newborn daughter to Cassius. She hoped he would raise her just like he did with Abigail. Remembering his late wife, Cassius tearfully agreed. He now carried another heavy responsibility. Meanwhile, Abigail was being shown around by a handsome young man. For the first time in years, she felt genuine happiness again. She couldn't believe people here drank wine and danced to music so joyfully. At that moment, Abigail decided she wanted to stay longer. But after the party, she saw the same guy sneaking below deck. Curious, she followed him and discovered a room filled with wires, explosives, and remote triggers. Suddenly, the guy appeared and explained everything. The ship was rigged with explosives beneath the deck. If attacked, the townspeople would escape through a tunnel, then blow up the base behind them. But neither of them expected the day of reckoning would arrive so soon. The deranged scientist, burning with hatred for Cassius and his group, had teamed up with the black-faced zombie. With the help of the mind control device, the zombies could now cross water, the only natural barrier keeping humans safe. A massive army of zombies swam and rode straight toward Boat Town. Caught off guard, the town's defenders were quickly overwhelmed. Without the advantage of terrain, the townspeople became easy prey. Cassius, worried for Abigail, rushed back to find her. He fought his way through the chaos. Eventually, he found Abigail battling zombies on the deck. But in a moment of distraction, he was shoved to the ground by one of them. The crazed scientist appeared ready to finally take revenge. But Cassius wasn't going down without a fight. Cassius grabbed the man's wrist and slammed him to the ground. The impact shattered the control device. The zombies immediately went berserk. The mad scientist was torn apart by the very creatures he once controlled. Thankfully, the town had already prepared an escape tunnel. Many survivors managed to flee across the river just in time. The handsome young man reached for the detonation trigger, but held off because Abigail was still on the boat. As they were running, Cassius used an R to knock the black-faced zombie away. That's when Abigail saw it on the zombie's wrist was the bracelet she once gave her dad. She froze in shock, but there was no time to think. Cassius dragged her into the escape tunnel without a second to spare. Once they were safe, the young man hit the trigger. All of Boat Town erupted into a sea of fire. Just when they thought it was all over, it wasn't. The commander of the outpost, though bitten during the battle, still hadn't turned. At that moment, the black-faced zombie appeared. He had miraculously survived the explosion. Cassius immediately lunged at him. Abigail picked up a gun from the ground. She realized the zombie leader was her biological father. But Cassius, the man who had raised her, was now in danger. In the end, Abigail made her decision. She pulled the trigger, shooting her former father right in the head. Because he was no longer her father, not anymore. That also confirmed something else. The female zombie Cassius killed earlier was once her mother. And with that, every piece of the story finally came full circle. Cassius led the remaining survivors, their eyes fixed on a deserted island far away. They made a choice to rebuild humanity from there. And that marks the end of the movie. That was the full story of Simon John. So, what did you think of the film? If you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button. Or if it was just okay, drop a like. That's cool too. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one.